let's go to our next question. And this is kind of related, but talking more specifically about how you teach students kana. And I know we covered that a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about how you teach kanji in the online environment. Love Sensei, if we could please start with you.
Sure. So I'll start by just talking about like the writing by hand issue. It's what Nozaki Sensei was just talking about, and I mentioned this in the previous session. But I had a really hard time like teaching students, handwriting at first, until I got an iPad and an Apple Pen. I had a Lenovo tablet and I had a stylus. And there's just aspects of that, like fading your strokes in particular, that just weren't coming across. But once I got the iPad and the Apple Pen, using the pencil feature, it's actually sensitive to how hard you're pressing with the Apple Pen. So you can like fade a stroke and students can actually see the stroke fading out. So when you hane it, like they can actually see what it's supposed to look like and you can demonstrate it for them. So I found that really helpful in terms of learning, teaching students how to write characters. Um, I think mentioned a couple other things here. One is that when we're teaching kanji, I take time to teach students about how kanji characters are usually composed. That we've usually got one element that is a phonetic radical, and then one element that is like a very general meaning-based radical. Um, I think in particular when they're starting to get to the upper level classes, and they know a few kanji, being able to take, some element that's familiar to them and say like, this is haku from, the kanji for white. And now we've got this other character and we've got the same thing appearing as a radical, and this is also read as haku in that own reading. I think it makes learning the new characters a lot easier, and remembering those Chinese readings. So that's something that I take a minute to talk to my students over. It usually blows their mind a little bit, that there's actually some element in here, like you don't just have to memorize every single character. There's something that's giving you a clue here as to how you're supposed to read the kanji. Um, one other thing that I'll mention is just feedback. Um, Again, like being able to, get something that allows me to write in students' assignments. Usually like they're going to do an assignment, and if it's a handwritten assignment, then they'll take a picture with a phone camera or something, and then they'll send that to us for feedback, right? So being able to actually like write in their documents and demonstrate, how they're supposed to write a character, I found very helpful. One thing that I don't yet have a great answer for is students do seem to look at the feedback less in the online environment. Like when we're dealing with an actual written document in an in-person classroom, they give me the document, I write on the document, I give them back the physical copy. And then, it's right there in front of them, they look at it. But my sense is that, when doing it in an online environment, they look at that a little bit less and they look at the feedback a little bit less. Like, like I said, I don't have a great answer for like how to get them to look at the feedback that I'm giving them more. But that's kind of an issue that we've run into with that. And then one last thing that I'll mention. This isn't something that we've done too much, but I know of other instructors that have done this, is when students do an assignment, having them, draft out a response. And this is, works better in a typed assignment than a handwritten assignment, but having them draft out a response and then give that response to AI and then ask the AI for feedback. And then submit not only their original draft, but also their corrected version, and the feedback that they got from the AI. So just a couple thoughts, couple things we're doing.
Excellent. I think anyone who teaches online can vouch that it's a struggle to get students to really look at their feedback. And we spend so much time adding that feedback, and it's such a great way for them to level up. So, yes, I definitely agree that's a challenge, but a lot of great things to think about. Thank you for that, Love Sensei. And the same question, we'll go ahead and ask Saito Sensei next. How do you teach students kana and kanji in the online environment?
Yes. So the kana and kanji, and for the kana, like I guess like I answered like most of the parts. Like so for the kana, like I use the mnemonic and with giving them a lot of resources. That's how I teach. And I didn't mention, and it's about the assessment, like how much they learned from those materials. So that's the end of kind of kana. And I give them like I share the screen and with the authentic materials. Like just literally like the sign of like stop tomare, or like that I can't think of like gyoza in a vertically written with the chochin, and or like the train station signs, like maybe I can show you later. But like I give them like the sign online and like in the class, and also the teaching the test as well. Test, like I give them like I'm going to test you with the like 10 or I think 20 or 10 or 20 not 20 authentic materials. Then within a given time, like you have to be able to retype, not like writing. Writing is just copying. So like the retyping, so they have to know like how this character like makes like K, like if it's the key, like it's the KI, they have to be able to type it. So and for the quiz test, like I use kind of regular like the Google form, just like the blank Google form, and they have to be able to retype like within like the given time. So that's like the mini quiz. But for the class activity, it's not only for the kana, but I use like this technique all the time. It's called waterfall. And waterfall is like, the student has to put the answer, like what while I'm showing like tabako in hiragana in the authentic materials, and they have to quickly read and type it, but they can't release it until I say san, ni, ichi, waterfall. And then like they like literally it's kind of like goes all the tobacco in a like with using the Zoom chat. So I use that technique all the time, just a little bit of checking, like understanding. So, and actually, I love kanji teaching, but again, I don't have so much time in college settings because of it's not because of the online. It's just like how the course developed, and like I have certain requirement, like I have to teach within like the like by the end of fall semester or spring semester. So I enjoy myself teaching with the middle school and also the high school kids, but I also gives that those tips to the college student as well. Like I guess like my focus is how much like those like in class activity or like whatever the contents they are learning, like it's retains their brain. And for the middle school, like I'm not gonna start with the kanji immediately. Like, I give them, if for example, I have to teach them like the kanji for oki, big, and I pick one of the student and can you express with just a body and to express big, and what you gonna do with the body, like without the word and just a body action. And most of the students start to stretch them like themselves. And so, and okay, and I whenever like they have like the similar body gesture, like I said stop, and like I'm gonna write it down like what I look like, and then like try to give them like the kanji big. So that's the middle school. And like the kanji at the high school, like I teach up to AP Japanese. So like they have to learn like 450 kanji or something. It's like really a lot. But just like Raf Sensei said, we are starting from the kanji it's very important to learn the radicals, and the radicals has the sound meanings, and like it's the combination. So every time we come across like the really like difficult kanji, and okay, let's just like decode this kanji and like putting like everything on the whiteboard. So I wish I can do that at the college, but the college just don't have time to like go over everything like single kanji. But like still like yeah, and with using like in-class technique and also the authentic materials. So I teach like kana and kanji that way. Thank you.
I can certainly vouch that there's so many topics that I would love to share with my students, but just because of the time, we just don't have time to do it, unfortunately. So we're kind of constrained a bit, but it's great to hear that you've got great strategies and ways that you can engage your students. Thank you for that. And then let's go to Nozaki Sensei. The question is about teaching kana and kanji. How do you do that in the online environments?
Yeah, so I think it doesn't limit to the online, but similar to my class setting, but both students have to work on their own. So yeah, so first of all, I think I want to mention that feedback things like, so yeah, so after the students submit well, mostly for the beginning level, handwritten homework, writing homeworks to the Canvas like learning material system. So I look through those the students' homework as soon as possible and give feedbacks. And yeah, as other teacher mentioned, like the problem is most students don't see the feedback much. But so in that case, I write down some common mistakes and introduce that, explain that at the beginning of the next class, and say many people made this hook and many people didn't write this stroke quite well and so on. So yeah, so I will bring part of the feedback to the next class. And yeah, I already mentioned how to teach kana in the kanji online environment mostly in the last answer. So just as a supplement, so yeah, so other than showing how to write in a whiteboard or a document camera, sometimes I introduce like the website that shows that has animation of uh, writing kana and kanji. So it's also handy, it's very quick, and also students can see that after the class as well for their own study. And yeah, so if we practice handwriting, like kana and kanji in a class, like so after I teach kata and kanji in the class, and the students can have time to practice on their own pen and pencil on the table. And sometimes when I have time, students to show it the screen, and we'll check if the student write correctly. And also, sometimes I ask students, how do you practice or learn kana? How do you memorize kana and kanji? And so often students gives us good information. So yeah, so far I have heard like it what was the name? That was it's a popular one. So yeah, no, like, yeah, but one of the students' favorite app was like Anki to memorize kanji and kana. And there was another favorite, but I cannot, maybe I will remember later. So actually, students know the very helpful apps to study kanji and kana. And yeah, I forgot to mention the last answer. I also assign voice thread for the reading assignment as well. For the beginning student, yeah, if I don't have enough time to check every student's pronunciation of each kana, so I will assign voice thread homework. So I give some questions like 犬 or 子犬 or 子犬がいます. And student will read and record it on the voice and upload to the reading. So I will check as homework as well, and give feedback, maybe hopefully in the next class. Yes, that's it.
Fantastic. You did talk a lot about feedback, and it's just such an important element of what we do for the online teaching world. But I kind of just, if you don't mind, if I could please ask a follow-up question related to your survey for the students, just learning kind of what their favorite ways are and means of studying kanji. Do you find there's any fluctuation from semester to semester, or do you find that it's pretty consistent across the board that students kind of tend to prefer the same things? Or do some groups prefer something totally different while others prefer a totally different route?
Like how to learn kanji? Like,
Yes, I'm just curious, as you do the survey, do you find that every semester you get similar results, or do you find that in some semesters some students prefer some apps, or some students say that they prefer to do maybe just memorizing by writing? I'm just curious personally, just to know kind of how, if there's any fluctuation there.
Yeah, so actually, recently I think I found many, of course, everyone has a smartphone, so everyone is looking into the screen everywhere. So I think nowadays a college student loves those like technologies. And so, yeah, so far I haven't heard new apps like other, I remember the Quizlet. That's the most popular ones. And next popular one is Anki. So some students like to memorize kanji and so on. And yeah, every time there's some student who has trouble to memorize kanji. So I'm a old generation, so I mostly tell students to use full sense like hand, ear, mouth, and write as many as your time permits. But some student just doesn't fit that strategy. Like I think Kobuke sensei mentioned, like each student has their own like favorite learning strategies. Some students are visual learners, some students are writing learners, like so on. So yeah, so I think it very depends on each student. But yeah, so recently I heard it's not recent. It's I think it's been around a while, but there's some yeah, we have a touch screen smartphone, so like if they can still practice on the screen writing and they can tell how to read and like also might give some feedbacks of how to write. Like Kobuke sensei mentioned like a website version, but I think the similar version on a smartphone. So they can practice those writing on their small smartphone screen and practice and get a feedback. So student knows much better than me actively.
That's interesting. And I can't help but to notice myself that I am hearing that a lot of students are using their smartphones not just for the apps to memorize things like characters and kanji, but they're also using their smartphones to do our assignments. So it's something I kind of think about when I'm developing my own content. Like, oh, I wonder what they're using, if it's smartphone or if they're actually using a computer or tablet. Thank you for that, Nozaki sensei. And then Kobuke sensei, if we could please move to you. And again, related to teaching kana and kanji, how do you do that in the online environments?
Uh, let's see if I can share again. Okay. So as Luft sensei mentioned, and Nozaki sensei mentioned, and Saito sensei mentioned, the importance of when teaching kanji, the onyomi, kunyomi, being able to read that using the radicals, and the importance of writing not only kanji but hiragana, katakana, having students requiring students to do written assignments. I've had a student before who came into 200 level class, never had written hiragana, katakana, kanji, but was able to read it very well, but wasn't able to write. And it was a synchronous class. So when I asked everyone to write in Nearpod, it was very off. The balance was, you could tell it was not, he wasn't used to writing. So it's really, I think, important to teach writing and reinforce that with throughout the semester. And also when students are learning like hiragana, katakana, especially katakana, um, knowing where to put the bowl. A lot of students don't know where that goes. So word wall, I find word wall useful for those anagrams. Sort of give us scaffolded, in the very beginning, the students need to put it in order, but they will know where that bowl needs to go. Or if you have a long vowel sound, where that long vowel sound needs to go if it's in hiragana. So word wall works for that. Also, word wall, the sound, um, when creating like listening activity or just vocabulary, the speech to text is awesome in Wordwall for Japanese. Not so good in other chatbots I'm finding, but for Wordwall it's very, very good, very close to native. If you play with how it's spaced. um, and also for kanji, I know I'm jumping, but kanji, I like to use extempore uh, to have students not only practice conversation, but read uh, within a certain amount of time. So you have 30 seconds to read this sentence, and then in the beginning, I allow them to re-record and have a little extra time at the end. But as the students get used to using extempore, then it'll be shorter and it'll be one chance and no it'll lock. Then you need to go on to the next. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, this is a great tool. It's nice to hear that the speech to text is accurate, or at least relatively accurate, because I know that can be really challenging, especially for other languages. But it's nice we kind of get a little bit of an advantage as Japanese teacher. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Kobuke Sensei. Great resource.